15 passengers rescued from a derailed train on Chicago's South Side early this morning.
Let them know we got help on the way.
Help on the way for the 15 people stuck on this Green Line train, derailed just before 3 in the morning.
On a slushy day such as today, many in the city, including myself, are grateful for our robust public transportation system. But that system faces a fiscal cliff in 2026 next year due to funding issues.
This was a wake-up call.
Enter transportation expert and professor at DePaul, Joe Schwieterman.
We're approaching a fiscal cliff, and so there's going to be real stress on our transit system. And these older systems need just steady funding. It can be sort of a death by 1,000 cuts. You have ghost buses, you have derailments that cause big-time disruption, you have reminders of these safety problems and crime and so forth. And we just have to make things a little more predictable for our riders.
Now, even though the incident is still under investigation and the cause of the derailment is unknown, I can't help but check out the location myself to see if there are any telltale signs as to why this happened. I'm not an engineer, I'm just curious. So that's where we're headed now, the 63rd and Normal intersection.
You can see the train is still over us, and CTA personnel have been walking up and down the tracks for hours examining them. There is also a crane, in fact, more than one crane.
On elevated tracks, 30 feet in the air.
Do you know if there are any injuries?
No serious injuries, as Chicago fire officials helped people off that train one by one. Our cameras rolling on crews using a crane to work on the car 12 hours later. The CTA restored service here by using buses to bridge the service gap, clearing the train tracks late this afternoon. Schwieterman says with older systems like the L needing constant maintenance and the city facing budget issues, the city may need to ask state or federal officials for funding help.
You can see back of the yards over there. I can recognize those container boxes.
Long after the morning commute, the Green Line train remained on the elevated tracks. In daylight, you could see some of the wheels appeared to be out of alignment. This was the scene just before 3 a.m. Firefighters raised a ladder about 30 feet at 63rd and Normal. One by one, riders started coming down. A battalion chief said 3 cars went off the tracks with 15 people aboard. Some riders told us they did not hear anything out of the ordinary. They felt a jolt, then the train came to a stop a few blocks from the Halsted station near Kennedy King College. Crews helped one elderly man who could not climb down. He was lowered using the basket, then got into an ambulance on his own. 2 riders reported smoke in the last train car, but there is no confirmation of that from the CTA or the fire department.
Different vantage point from this area about how high folks were when they were being hoisted down from the train tracks.
"51st is next. Doors open on the right at 51st. Smoking. Doors locked.
All right, so now we have to make our way to the 63rd and Normal intersection to get a sense of where exactly this elevated track where folks were hoisted down from, what the condition is right now, and see if there's any evidence of what might have happened. Again, I'm not an engineer, so this is just a regular Chicagoan observing with his own two eyes to see if there's any telltale signs of anything really. Now the 63rd and Normal stop is a few blocks east in this direction. So a few blocks just to take in this neighborhood, which I love how everything, at least in this area. No. Is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah, we trying to find the white building so first day of coming.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm sure someone in the school might help you. I saw someone actually go in there right now into the library.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep. Take care. I wish I knew where that was, but unfortunately I don't. So yeah, I mean, I just love how, at least in this few 5 block by 5 block area, everything's kind of centered around the Kennedy King College. All right, so to my right here, this isn't the specific location, but I just like the vantage point because you can really get a sense of how high the tracks are and just a really good horizontal view of the situation that transpired a few days ago. So this space right here in front of me really gives you, like I said, like that point of view of what onlookers were looking at as folks were being brought down from the train when it was stuck there. You know, again, it might look different. Well, it definitely looks different from the actual 63rd and Normal location, which we'll go to here shortly. But because of this parking lot in front of me, I think it just provides a great unobstructed view of the scenario. Another vantage point of the drop-off from the rail line down to the ground. Now, as we approach our intersection, we've got a nice unobstructed spot here where we can really look at just how high folks were and get a better lay of the land, really. So most likely 63rd and Normal is going to be right in front of me here where that bridge is. There's the Halsted stop right there. So just going underneath this bridge to just poke around and see what things look like. Again, I'm not an engineer, but honestly, everything looks, there's nothing here that looks out of the ordinary. Again, we're waiting on the actual CTA report, which will give us a better sense of what went wrong. But yeah, there's nothing, at least from my eyes, that lead me to believe that there's anything from a infrastructure standpoint that caused this issue. But that doesn't change the fact that Chicago public transportation in and of itself is facing a fiscal cliff next year, which is going to be a whole thing in and of itself. A topic that was mentioned after this incident took place was, you know, Chicago public transportation infrastructure in general, regardless of whether things look okay on the outside. A lot of the bridges, a lot of the tunnels, like I showed you at the beginning of this video, you know, some of them are in a condition that, given the funds that we currently have as a city, there may not be enough of a immediate priority to repair them, aka we're just kicking the can down the road. But because that's exacerbated by the fact that we're strapped for cash, you know, it leads you to wonder, you know, is there going to come a day where, you know, the straw finally breaks the camel's back and something more devastating than what happened here a few days ago takes place? Obviously, I don't wish that on the city. I don't wish that on anyone. As a CTA rider myself, safety is of my utmost concern. But yeah, that's just something that Chicago City Council, especially the closer we get to 2026, is really going to have to figure out what to do. And this comes on the heels of the CTA Red Line extension funding that the city received. You know, over $1 billion in CTA funding to extend the Red Line further down into the south side of Chicago. It'll be interesting to see how all of these funding matters play out in the coming years. As I get closer to the 63rd and Normal intersection, I want to take a look at this bridge. My dad is an engineer and he's designed many bridges in his lifetime, so whenever I see a bridge, I always think of him and just his time in engineering. So we can probably go down this alley here to Normal directly and see what folks were feeling when they actually were back down on the ground. So all the elevated structures here are right near residential buildings. Again, there are no telltale signs that there's anything visibly wrong with the infrastructure in this space, so at least from my perspective, I'm not an engineer though. All right. I see Normal now. So this is literally the space where folks most likely, after they were brought down by the fire ladder, they probably walked down this street to most likely a bus that carried them to their next destination, since this rail line would have been out of service. And this happened at such a strange time of the day. It was like between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., if my memory serves me right, when this derailment happened and the folks had to get rescued from right up here, because we're at 63rd and Normal now. This is where it all happened. Imagine getting hoisted down by a fire ladder at 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., around that time, from this high up. That's what folks were experiencing just a few days ago. So yeah, it was cool that I was actually able to get to this site, knowing that I took the Green Line on these very rails just before getting off of Halsted was a little odd, but as my dad always says, he has faith in the math that goes into engineering. So I wasn't worried about the actual structure in of itself. I'm probably more worried about the city's finances than anything.